sometimes there's just a lot of things that you want to talk about, a lot of topics you want to cover, different things. Maybe not any one topic that could take up a whole Morning Pit, but multiple topics that could fit together. Spend a few minutes on each, and maybe any one of these topics we could use for an entire episode of the Morning Pit. But sometimes I just don't make those good business decisions. I should stretch things out. Take one topic for every day because we got to get through the whole summer. But not going to do that. Going to talk about a bunch of different things today, ranging from transfers, the wide receiver position, the House settlement with that case, which we actually touched on a little bit last week, but we'll just update some thoughts here today, and a new trick that I learned. This is pretty awesome. This is exciting. Shout out to somebody on the message board for explaining to me why the balloons were falling behind me. Well, I'm going to show you what I learned, and it's awesome. So don't go anywhere. It's the Morning Pit here on youtube.com/Panther-Lair.com. Yeah, shout out to poster NG Standish. I should give him a free month or a free year on Panther-Lair.com for figuring this one out. If you watched yesterday's video, it was Monday's video, and then it happened again yesterday. Balloons just like randomly appear, and I couldn't figure out why balloons were appearing. How does this happen? And sometimes we would get it where there was like a thumbs up sign, and I'm like, am I saying something? Is there someone hacked into my computer and they think I make a great point, so they give a thumbs up? No, what it is, apparently, because I use a Mac, there are like gestures that it can pick up on. So if I give you a thumbs up, see the thumbs up? Isn't that great? And the balloons came because I gave you a peace sign and held it there. There they are. There they are. You see the balloons? Is that not incredible? I'm not going to go over. We did this last night on the live stream, so I'm not going to go over this too much today. But here's my personal favorite, and I should break this out only in dramatic situations. But if you're listening just to the audio podcast, you are clearly missing out because you won't see this. Is that not incredible? Thank you, Steve Jobs. You have infiltrated my entire life. You have, removed any vestige of privacy I could possibly ever have, but you allowed me to be able to do that. I mean, that is... that is magic. We got a lot to talk about here on the Morning Pit, but is that not great? I can actually, I think I can make it rain as well. Yeah, isn't that That's really a bummer, but we're not going to do that, okay? We're going to keep things happy with some fireworks. Not going to do any more of these gestures, but oh boy, am I excited about figuring about that. The kids are really excited. My kids think that is just the greatest thing to be able to do. But you know what we always do? I mean, this is the Thursday edition of the Morning Pit here on youtube.com/Panther-Lair.com. We'll have our mailbag edition tomorrow. We had our live stream last night. We do all these things like all week long. And if you want to make sure you don't miss out on any of them, subscribe to our YouTube channel, youtube.com/Panther-Lair.com. Like this video while you're at it, and check out the website Panther-Lair.com, Pittsburgh.rivals.com to get all of your Pitt sports coverage. Some news, it came out Tuesday night after we had already recorded yesterday's Morning Pit, so I didn't get a really chance to talk about it. Pete Thamel from ESPN reporting, or ESPN.com reporting that the ACC is approving the NCAA settlement in the House case. And we talked about this a bit last week. You know, there's basically 3 antitrust cases right now against the NCAA, all sort of representing former student athletes attempting to get back pay, essentially, for NIL opportunities they missed out on. And they feel like the NCAA should be held responsible for it because they... basically cash blocked them. Let's say that they cash blocked those student athletes when they were in school and they were unable to get those NIL opportunities due to the NCAA's rules. And so it seems like the legal consensus is that if the NCAA goes to court with these cases, they are going to be on the hook for like billions of dollars, like double-digit billions of dollars. And if they settle, they might be able to get away with just single-digit billions of dollars. And that's sort of the crux of the thing, but sort of wrapped up in that is this bigger settlement piece that's been proposed or reported or sourced and leaked and all of those things. And the settlement not only includes that back pay for the former student athletes, but it includes other provisions, namely, and most prominently, and most notably, creating a revenue sharing system for student athletes where, I think we capped it like for 2025, if it went into effect, it would be capped around $20 to $22 million that would be shared per school with the student athletes, or that would be the cap of it. You don't have to share that much. I forget if there's a floor to it, but that's the ceiling. It's 20 to 22 million. Depending on where the exact number ends up, it's like an average of the top 22% of revenue, whatever. That's the big one. Taking $20-some million out of an athletic department's budget and putting it in the hands of the student athletes. In addition to this back pay, which the NCAA is going to shoulder the bulk of it, but they are also going to get a little bit of help from the schools, basically in the form of not distributing about $2 million a year. And then there's also this other part of it of lifting scholarship limits, removing scholarship limits, but putting in new roster size limits. And so I think the proposal for football is like no scholarship limits, but roster limits at like 90. So effectively you have 90 scholarship guys and no walk-ons, potentially, if you max out. All of this rolled together is projected to cost schools, on average, about $25 million per year. Some projections have it up closer to 30. It depends on how much the scholarships cost and how many you give out, because it's not just football. It's making baseball a full scholarship sport as opposed to the equivalencies that they do now, where you can get a partial scholarship. They're going to raise the limit to like 30, 35 players, and you can give them all full scholarships. That's going to add up quick. I'm not sure if a school like Pitt would fully fund a sport like baseball. It's not like it's going to drop them any further behind in that sport, because they're already fairly well behind in baseball. Despite being in a good baseball conference, they're also north of the Mason-Dixon line, which makes baseball hard. The point is, you're looking at somewhere around $25 million coming out of budgets that already, a lot of them, operate on pretty thin margins to begin with. And if you have a budget that's operating on a pretty thin margin, and you're now taking an extra $25 million out of it, I'm not an accountant. I pay someone to do that for me, but I don't think I need to reach out to him and ask, like, hey, what would happen if I have a budget that's already pretty thin on the margins, and I'm going to take $25 million out of it? I mean, you could probably guess what's going to happen, right? Yeah. That's what it's going to be for some athletic departments. There are going to be cuts. Sports cut, staff cuts, and it's, I don't know how it's all going to shake out. They're obviously going to look at cutting staff and personnel within the athletic department. They're going to have to look at cutting sports. I think a lot of schools, maybe a majority of schools, are going to have to look at cutting sports if they want to operate it at this level. And that's one of the big questions. Some schools are going to have to answer that question first. Do we want to dive headlong into this thing and try to commit to operating at that level, which is going to mean making some very, very difficult decisions around the athletic department with sports and staff, etc., or do we take a step back? Because particularly what we're talking about is football. Because everything we're talking about is football, and to a lesser extent men's basketball. But if you decide that, you know what, even if we fully commit this $25 million or whatever it is to stay afloat in football, we're just going to stay afloat. And we're not really going to put ourselves in a position to win a national championship. And I'm not saying any specific school would say this. I'm saying this is a thought that's going to cross some administrators' minds. And so they're going to say, well, we could cut all of these things. We could drop a bunch of sports, take opportunities away from student athletes. We could cut people's jobs just to try to stay afloat and keep ourselves in that conversation of college football. Meanwhile, we keep falling further and further behind. Or we could not go for the gold ring with football and just reinvest and try and support the, hundreds of other student athletes in the athletic department. Of course, the flip side of that is, who pays the bills for, to keep the lights on? And for most of those other sports, it's football. I don't see a lot of schools making the business decision with football. I see a lot of schools making the business decisions in favor of football, to try and maintain football, to try to keep keep themselves alive in that arena. And a few Olympic sports be damned. There's always hyperbole when you get into these conversations. There's always hyperbole when you get in, have these discussions about, the state of college sports and everything like that. But brother, if this isn't the precipice, I don't know what is. I mean, we are staring out over the infinite abyss, and it's only an infinite abyss because we have no idea what it looks like. And even the ones who seem like they'll probably be in good shape don't really know what it looks like. And they don't know. I think even if you're like, take your pick of who are the schools we point to, be like, oh, this is only going to benefit them, right? We talk about Alabama, we talk about Ohio State, Michigan, Georgia, USC, Texas, whoever. Even they don't know. They don't know if 5 years from now they're going to look back and say, look upon my works, ye mighty in despair. Nothing besides remains. I mean, it's a real, it's a real possibility insofar as nobody has any idea what this thing is going to look like or where it's going or what it's going to be. And maybe there's a really smart person out there who's like, no, listen, here's what's going to happen. This is going to go here, and that's going to go there. And these guys are going to get together, and those guys are going to get together, and everything's going to it's going to settle into a new normal. And it will. It will ultimately settle into a new normal. But what that normal looks like if you woke up tomorrow with your head stapled to the carpet, well, eventually that will become your new normal. But that's a hell of a way to spend your time, isn't it? So the ACC approving it, Big 12 approved it. It seems like it's a rubber stamp type of thing. The other power conferences will approve it. The NCAA Board of Governors or whoever it is will approve it. The settlement in the House case. And then we'll find out what this new normal looks like. And a year from now, God willing, we'll all still have jobs. A year from now, Izzy Polk is going to be playing at Akron. Segue into some transfer news. Israel Polk, the Pitt wide receiver, came as a true freshman last year from California, enrolled early, impressed a lot of people in spring camp 2023. Got on the field for just a handful of plays in that season as a true freshman, ended up maintaining his red shirt. Went into the transfer portal after spring camp ended and announced yesterday that he's going to Akron. Interesting destination. I really thought, as a guy from California, I thought he would try to go back home. I thought he would try to go to Fresno State, how many other the University of California system schools have football teams? Or San Jose State, San Diego State. Raphael Williams could have put in. I don't know if Raphael Williams could put in a good word for Izzy Polk at San Diego State or not. He was only there for a year, didn't play, had to sit out due to eligibility, and he ended up transferring as soon as he got eligible. So I'm not sure if he's the best reference that you're going to put down on your resume. But either way, I think Israel Polk will end up having a nice career at Akron. Remember, Shockey Jacques Louis went there after, just sort of fits and starts in his career at Pitt. He went to Akron and had a good final year of eligibility. Was that last year or 2022? I forget exactly when that was, but went there and had a good final year of eligibility. I think it was 22. It doesn't matter. No, it was. It was 2022. He went there, had a good final year. I think Izzy Polk could have a productive career at Akron. I think he could do a nice job there. I think he's a good player. I think he impressed people. I think he surprised people last spring of 23. I think he was better in spring camp than people expected him to be. People who had recruited him. He was a late add in that 2023 recruiting class, along with Ty Diefenbach, two guys that came in from California. Pitt kind of found them together. Frank Signetti going out looking for a quarterback to replace Kenny Minchie, ends up finding Ty Diefenbach and Israel Polk, but now Polk is gone. I don't know how or if he would have figured into the wide receiver rotation this season. Obviously, you've got Konate Mumfield at sort of the top of the depth chart. You've got Dejon Reynolds and Kenny Johnson back. I mean, that's, I would presume, your top three, at least for the start. Raphael Williams and C.J. Lee, the two Cade Bell guys coming in as transfers, were probably going to be in the mix there. Elsewhere in that redshirt freshman class, you had Zion Fowler-El and Lamar Seymour. It's not a particularly deep group. It's a group with a lot of questions, but there are bodies there, and so if Israel Polk felt like he was behind too many guys, if Israel Polk felt like he wasn't going to get a shot. Because, I mean, like, so if you say Mumfield, Reynolds, and Johnson are your top three, and they may or may not be, I think it remains to be seen what Raphael Williams and Sincere Lee are going to do. I think those guys missed some time this spring, and that probably held them back a decent amount. But if you say Mumfield, Reynolds, and Johnson are your top three, if you say Reynolds and Lee, or Williams and Lee, if they're not in the top three, they'll be top six. So part of the two deep. I mean, Che Wabuko could be in that mix there. Fowlerell, Seymour. But if you've got Wabuko, Fowlerell, Seymour, and Izzy Polk all competing for basically one spot in the two deep, one spot in the top six. If you assume, if you're Izzy Polk and you're looking at it and you're saying, I'm not going to unseat Konate Mumfield, Dejon Reynolds, Kenny Johnson, Raphael Williams, or Sincere Lee, which means I'm competing with Che Wabuko, Zion Fowlerell, and Lamar Seymour for basically one spot of regular rotation time. You might say, hey, I can find a better opportunity elsewhere. And I think he did. I think he found a good opportunity. I think he'll get playing time, and I think if he sticks it out at Akron, I think he can have a pretty solid career. I think he can do a pretty good job and play there. Pitt, obviously, I mean, now it's just Fowlerell, Seymour, and Wabuko competing for that sixth spot. I'm still really curious about the two Western Carolina guys. I know Raphael Williams came from San Diego State, like we talked about a minute ago, but I still think of him as a Western Carolina guy. I'm still curious to see what those guys can do, what their roles will be, how they'll fit in. I think they could be good players. They were obviously very productive in Cade Bell's offense in the past, but I need to see it happen at the Power 5 level, Power Conference level in the ACC is what I need to see. I need to see it happen at this level. So then Polk becomes the fourth spring transfer who left Pitt to find a new destination. Deion Hayes, of course, went to Colorado. Solomon DeShields to Texas A&M. Christian Baird to Georgia State. And now Polk to Akron. I haven't seen anything on Antonio Kamen, Cole Mitchell, Dorian Ford, or Javante Royal. I think those guys are still on the board in addition to Addison Copeland and TJ Harvison, who both went into the portal after the season. So that's six guys we're still sort of keeping an eye on. Otherwise, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13 Pitt transfers have left the team and found new homes. That's not counting Nate Temple and Brandon George, who went into the transfer portal and then left it and came back to Pitt. So we'll keep an eye on those guys. It's a little surprising to me that TJ Harvison didn't find a home in December. It's a little surprising to me he's still on the board there. Young player, was only at Pitt for 1 year. So I feel like the closer you are to the beginning of your career, the more relevant your high school highlights still are. Some of these guys are trying to get game film or practice film from their college time. If you're a redshirt junior, if you're Javante Royal, who's like a redshirt senior, or Dorian Ford, who's he's going to be a redshirt junior this year, you're pretty far away from high school. But a guy like, Izzy Polk, a guy like TJ Harvison, I mean, they're still relatively close to high school. They're only a year or two removed from their senior season of high school. So I think that senior film is still relevant, or should be. I think TJ Harvison's senior film was really good. And so I'm a little surprised he hasn't landed somewhere. Addison Copeland, his senior year was a longer time ago, just one more year, but it was a while ago. I don't know if he has much film from the scout team or anything like that, but it's not quite as surprising that he hasn't found a home yet. Either way, I'm guessing those guys will end up somewhere. Addison Copeland, TJ Harvison, and then the four spring guys, Antonio Kamen, Cole Mitchell, Dorian Ford, and Javante Royal. Wait, did Dorian Ford actually... I said that. For some reason, I'm feeling like I thought I saw... No, he's only gone into the portal. I thought maybe he ended up somewhere, but I just had to double check real quick to make sure he did not get a destination. So we'll keep an eye on those guys. We'll see what they end up doing, and when they when they find their location and have a good career, we'll give them the Come on. Oh, come on. Really? There it is. There it is. I knew we had to wait for it, but geez, I'm still mastering getting the exact location down and how long you have to hold it and that kind of thing. I'm trying to get the timing down. But either way, there's a few things I was thinking about today: the settlement in the House case, and then some of that transfer update. We'll be back tomorrow with the Morning Pitt mailbag. So make sure you like this video and subscribe. Don't miss any of our YouTube content right here at YouTube, or video content right here at youtube.com/Panther-Lair.com, and then check out the website Panther-Lair.com. Thanks for watching today. Have a great Thursday, and we will catch up with you tomorrow on the Morning Pit. YouTube.com/Panther-Lair.com.